This is not gonna last very long. Here's the conversation. I can't do this.
Really?
Hey, welcome to Walk With Me by Leading Second, hosted by Brandon and Lindsay Stewart. Each one of us needs others to walk alongside of us in life, leadership, and in ministry, story by story, step by step. And in this special episode, Brandon and Lindsay talk about ownership at Leading Second Camp. So let's take a walk.
Here's the conversation we wanted to have with you for a couple minutes. In our book, Lead It Like You Own It, there's a little sneaky chapter right at the end. It's called the epilogue. And as I think we established last night, when you're reading someone's work, don't skip areas. We skip those things, right? I've
Always.
probably not read many an epilogue.
Yeah.
I would love if you would read this one. But we're gonna talk a little bit out of it for just a minute. Last night, we did our job to try to make our case for ownership.
Yep.
Why leadership is ownership and why ownership is so important in God's church. Well, what we want to talk to you about for a couple of minutes is ownership's final act. Ownership's final act. And let me set this up with this story. When I was working on the book I guess it would have been right about a year ago.
Yeah.
There was a day in particular I was out. We had just sold our home. So we were sitting in our home, but we had just sold it. We were under contract. And so we were 2 to 3 weeks out from being out of our home.
Yep.
And I went out, I took care of the lawn, I sprayed the weeds, and it hit me coming back in, why in the world did I spray the weeds?
Like we're gonna be gone.
Who cares? They're gonna take a couple weeks to come back, and at that point we're gonna be gone. Why does it matter? Why does it matter if I spray them? What hit me was I am now taking ownership of something that doesn't belong to me anymore. Like closing day is in sight.
Yeah.
And this house is not going to be my property, but I am now doing work and service that will benefit the next owner. And this is what hit me. Many times when it comes to ownership, we think of ownership in terms of the picking up. We think of ownership in terms of the calling it mine, don't we? That feels like the main event to us is you might, and we tell you to, go all in.
Right.
Own it like it's yours. And the challenge with that is you go all in and your heart gets in it. And your blood, sweat, and tears get on it. But then there comes a point where you have to lay it down. And what hit me that day with the lawn was that ownership isn't just about the picking up. That ownership is also about the laying down. That ownership's final act, maybe ownership's greatest act, is how you lay something down well for somebody else. Can we just talk about this for a couple of minutes? Now, if you think about this, this happens more often than we realize, right?
Yeah, I think it's, maybe we think of like big transitions, but it happens a lot of times in little moments too, that, we own maybe a team that we were, caring for and raised up, and now there's going to be a different leader. Or, I even think of like in your family, like, the way that your kids are growing and the way that I just have a 4 and 14-year-old, but it's like as they get older, like I have to kind of release them a little more and more. And it's just so hard to release something that you have been holding on tightly to, right?
Think about this. Think about when you've led a project or a team and now you have to lay it down.
Yeah.
Or think about when you've led in a season, but now you're asked to lay it down so somebody else can lead in that moment. Certainly transition can, like Lindsay was saying, transition can be big moments. But I think we overlook how often we might find ourselves in transition. Transition could be letting someone go from your team that's just no longer with you. Misalignment serves none of us well. I don't know why. I mean, I get why, but I kind of don't know why we hold on to people who need to find their way out. It's like we were together for a season, but now we're not. Transition is a big deal to Lindsay and I, not just because we've been in a year of transition, which we have. I think transition is full of potholes, it's full of challenges, and it derails more people's calling than a lot of things. Culture tells us to hold tightly. But I think the currency of the kingdom is holding loosely, realizing we use the word ownership, but the biblical word is stewardship. That we actually don't own it. We're calling this lead it like you own it, but the truth is you don't really own it. Your pastors don't own your church. It's all under the name of Jesus. It's all his church, but we're the stewards. It's in our hands. We lead it out of that spirit of ownership, even though it's not ours. John the Baptist, I think, is one of the great Bible examples of this. Jesus called John the Baptist the greatest prophet who ever lived. So let's just go straight there on accolades. That's Christ himself referring to you as the greatest prophet who ever lived. John the Baptist had a thriving ministry. He had crowds. He had influence. He had, all of the trappings you would look for in ministry. But I think, by my estimation, the most critical thing that John the Baptist said was when he spotted Jesus. And he said, I must decrease so that he can increase. I must become less so that he can become greater. And I actually think that's one of the greatest pictures of ownership in the Bible. And here's why. I think sometimes people act like owners and behave like owners, but when it comes time to lay it down, they end up tearing the baby apart rather than keeping the baby together.
So I think like what I'm hearing is like you, in your posture of ownership and your posture of leadership, the thought that like, this is mine for a time is the right posture, because like you're holding it with an open hand saying, I own this right now, and I'm gonna do everything I can to move it forward, and then I'm gonna hand it off to the next person in the best possible position that I can. And that I think if we lead with that posture, then it makes it easier to hand it off then too.
I think that's the art of ownership. The art of ownership is leading as if you're going to own it forever. But being able to lay it down and lay it down well when it's asked of you.
Yeah.
When it's needed. And I want to just slow down something I just said a minute ago. I'm referring to Solomon. You know, Solomon prayed for wisdom, and God gave him this exceptional gift of wisdom. And immediately, Solomon finds himself in a situation, you remember where the two moms claimed to be the baby's mom? And Solomon has to determine who's the real mother. You could say who's the real owner. He has to determine who is it. And in his wisdom, he says, all right, cut the baby in half. You take one half, and that should satisfy everybody, right? And of course, one mom accepted the proposition. She said, that's fine. But the other mom said, no. Keep the baby together. I'll go without so that the baby can stay together. And in that moment, he knew who the real mom, or you could say the real owner, was. Right. Because she was unwilling to split the baby. And I will tell you, when it comes to laying down, one of the ways you can spot an owner, when they're laying something down, do they split it apart or do they keep it together?
It's good.
The people who throw emotional grenades on the way out, I question if they were ever an owner. Because you won't throw emotional grenades onto something that you truly owned and took personal risk. Remember our definition from last night, a real owner will own at personal cost.
Yeah.
Will own even if it means going without. So I think we have a couple quick points we want to talk through here. I'm going to call this the graceful exit. And Lindsay, I'd love to hear what you have to say about this. If we want to make a graceful exit, and remember, big and small here. If we want to make a graceful exit, I want to give you a couple handles to grab onto really fast for anyone facing laying something down. Number one, you have to detach your identity from the assignment. And don't you think we do that? We get really caught up. We confuse what we're doing with who we are.
Which, I mean, I feel like that's just a good way to lead in general, because if you're not paying attention to how you're viewing your role, then like, who are you doing it for in the first place, right? Like, what are you doing for the accolades of man, or is this really for Christ? And if it is, then you can see that you're just a momentary holder of whatever it is, right?
That's right. I've been guilty of this one. I've been guilty of confusing what I did with who I was. And I think it's just ownership gone too far. I think there's one thing to be proud of what you do. I think it's one thing to be excited about what you do. It's another thing to derive personal value. I love where Pastor Charlotte just ended. Our value is not found in that. We have to have a conviction about our value. And when I was in a season of transition and laying something down a couple years ago, 2-3 years ago, a friend of mine, we were talking, and he said, have you ever found yourself confusing your identity with the thing? And for me, those were just the words I needed to hear. I offer that to someone today. Are you confusing who you are and what you do? Have you found and derived too much personal value from what you do? Because if you are, when that thing goes away, you're going to find yourself very vulnerable and identityless.
Yeah.
Valueless, not from God, just in your own mind and in your own spirit. Number 2, we go from bad to worse here, ladies and gentlemen. From bad to worse. A graceful exit, cheer for who's next.
Even if you don't think that they should be the next person.
Cheer for who's next. Because owners leave legacies, not landmines. Think of war. When an army, when there's been war, when there's been conflict, and an army is retreating, what do? I mean, they're retreating, but they'll leave landmines. We didn't win, but I'm still going to get you.
Right.
If you step on the wrong... We were in Israel a few years ago, and there's a very contested border that we visited, and they basically said, you cannot go over to this area. There are still unexplored landmines. We don't know where they are. You don't want to step over in this region. It was kind of barricaded. It was believed there was landmines over there. I just wonder, on your way out, even in your frustration or even in your processing, are you leaving landmines or are you leaving a legacy? Because I think one way we show that we were the owners, do we cheer for who's next? This is difficult. This is a tall order. But that's the way the work that you believed in will continue.
Yep.
Maybe continue through someone else. Number 3, finish strong and finish clean. Finish strong and finish clean. If a finish line is in sight, get over the finish line at full speed. Go until the last day. And we've talked about this a lot in transition. Our goal in transition is always to leave with clean hands and a pure heart. I can't control what somebody else will do, but I can control me. I can control our family. And I think that's given me a lot of peace to know the situation may not be perfect, but I can do my part. I can feel that I can stand before God and feel like, God, I did what you asked me to do here. I would offer that's a great target. when you feel like you're in any kind of an imperfect environment, maybe not even transition, but if you're in any kind of an imperfect environment, make it your goal. I'm going to lead with clean hands and a pure heart right now.
But I think with that, like, I want to sit there for a minute because I feel like the way that you do that is very carefully, and if you don't do that, that's what leaves landmines. So, we have, if you're married, you have your spouse that hopefully you can talk to, and we can correct each other. And I can say, like, am I thinking about this right? Or is my heart right here? Or I'm struggling with this, or I'm not thinking about this the right way, and we can bounce it off each other. That's really important. Or maybe one trusted mentor, or somebody that can help you walk through that. I think having somebody in your life that you can say, am I just being an idiot here? Like, am I thinking about this wrong? Because I guarantee you that, like, no matter how hard we try, our emotions will get wrapped up in this. If we have poured our life into building a team for 2 years, and now Joe A is going to come in and take it now because you're going to do something else. And that simple thing that your pastor said, I'm going to move you here and I'm going to put you here, and that was a split decision. But now you have to let that team go, and that is full of things that you may need to discuss with someone. You're not bad because you have to work that through. It's who you talk to about that's going to determine whether you have clean hands or you leave landmines. So I think those are the things you have to set up before you go through the transition, so that while you're in the transition, you're not scrambling and figuring out who can I trust and who do I. The worst position to be in when you're going through something is sitting alone in a dark room going, well, who could I talk to about this? That our goal is that you don't ever get to that position where you don't have someone to talk to. Like, you have to find someone that you can trust that's got your God future, and they're going to give you godly advice and point you in the right direction. And that's like the utmost importance.
Yeah. I think she's lightly referencing, we were early married. In our early marriage, we found ourselves in transition within about 2-3 months of being married. And we were getting a little funky.
We were getting a lot funky. We were getting funky together, I guess I should say. So we were like funky together, and we were young, and we didn't know we were funky. We were just sitting there in the funk.
I called a mentor, Pastor John Morgan, and he basically on the phone just...
You can't say what he said.
No, I can't say what he said on a recording.
He said stop being...
Oh, he just said stop being an idiot.
An idiot.
And at first it was not, I expected to be like patted on the back, like you're right and they're wrong, and that wasn't what I heard, but that was what I needed to hear, was someone to say literally just stop, So I think you're bringing up a good point there. We need people to talk to. And the last point, and we'll close on this, talking about a graceful exit, we have to trust the author. Bible says he's the author and the finisher of our faith. And there's 2 elements of his authorship we have to continue, or we have to consider. 2 elements of his authorship we have to consider. Number 1, you have to trust the author. The pen is in his hand. So he is fully able to continue the story without you.
Yeah.
If you really believed in the story, and he's the author, he can continue it without you. God is allowed to continue it without you. It's okay. He very well might continue the story, and you have to trust. You have to entrust what you've built, not just to a man, but entrust it to God. So you have to trust the author, but then number 2, you have to trust that the author also has a new chapter for you. Because the one who ended one chapter for you is able to open up and write a new chapter.
Yeah.
And I think that we look at these things so naturally sometimes. And we need to get a heavenly perspective here, that God is the author and he is the finisher and he is writing a story. The reason you're sitting in this room today is because in 2011, I lost my job at our church. I was happy. working at our church in Seattle. It was all we wanted. We were so happy, but economic situation did not allow for my employment. Actually, about 5 or 6 people lost their job that day. Just didn't allow for that to continue. But I will tell, here's the reason we're talking about this. You might be saying, Brandon, why in the world are we talking about transition? You know, you're trying to get people to leave roles. Absolutely not. No. However, I do believe transition has to be thought about in advance. Because when you're in the pressure cooker of it, that's not the moment to figure out your convictions here. It's not the moment to figure out if you're an owner when it's all getting squeezed. I've heard your life referred to like a tube of toothpaste. Your life is a tube of toothpaste, and when you are squeezed, what is in you is gonna come shooting out, and you cannot put it back in. So what is stored up in your heart ahead of time matters. And we did not navigate that transition perfectly. But what we did do was we prioritized the house. We kept the baby together. We worked on some things with Pastor Kevin so that, quite frankly, there was some concern about what would fear enter the team if people found out I had been let go. I mean, there was real concern. And I actually told him, I said, you know what? You don't have to make an announcement for me. Like, I'm good. You don't have to, if you need, we want to position this differently to just keep the health of the team, I'm good. I don't need something right now. I'm going to prioritize the health of what we're part of here. And that's what we did. And you'll know somebody as an owner by how they handle those moments. I'm proposing that didn't come from instinct. That came from storing up the right things in advance. It came from developing conviction like we're talking about today. So I don't know if you have anything final to say. We just wanted to have this conversation with you. It's kind of fresh on our minds. Yeah. It's fresh on our heart. We have been in transition regionally. I feel like we've dealt with transition the last few years. I don't think transition should be a continual part of our story. I think that you got other problems if that's going on.
We're done with that.
But I do think it's reasonable to assume we will have a few significant transitions in life. I think that's reasonable. We'll tell you to go all in until the day you die. But let's be honest, most of us will have a few significant transitions in our life, and that's okay. Our point in wanting to have this conversation with you today is just to give you something to grab on, a handle to grab onto if transition finds you. If maybe you're asked to lay something down. I'll end with this story. I mean, where this whole thought starts with me. One of the roles that emerged for me at our church in Seattle was leading the team church conference. That was something I picked up after I laid down my staff role, and I loved it. That's probably my favorite thing I ever did.
Loved it.
We loved it. Poured our heart into it. And did it as a volunteer. Still love it. Was a joy of our life to do that and to steward that. And my phone rang at 10 o'clock on a Sunday night in early 2022 from my pastor, and I thought, what in the world is Pastor Kevin calling about at 10 o'clock at night? So he was in his thinking space, apparently. We're learning a lot about thinking space today. He was thinking, and he needed to say something, and I answered, and he basically said, I have an idea, leading Seconds Growing. This is growing, I have an idea. And he presented it to me, and basically what he was saying is, would you be willing to lay this down for the sake of your ministry and for the sake of Team Church? Like, would you be willing to do that? And I had to walk through that. I had to decide, am I willing to spray the weeds one more time? Am I willing to not throw emotional grenades? You're going to lay this down. And when you lay something down that's been a joy, it's been a treasure, it's tough, but I truly believe, and I think our testimony is that God will meet you in those moments, that His grace will surround you. When you here's a conviction you can live with, and we're way past time.
I know. Well, we're the boss. Actually, Hayden's the boss, but I'm just not looking at him right now.
I'm not looking at Hayden. When you build God's house, God will build your house.
Absolutely.
And that became my prayer often in these moments is, God, if I build your church, this is my prayer. God, if I take care of your church, will you take care of me? I don't want to worry about me. Let me worry about your church. if I take care of your church, will you take care of me and my family? And I'm just here to I think our life is a testimony. God will meet you in that prayer. He will meet you in that moment. God takes care of people who take care of his house. Amen?
Absolutely.
Do you receive this today?
Yeah.
Ownership's final act.